From Wabash, Indiana, it's the Summer Nationals Truck and Tractor Pull, sponsored by Jasper Performance Engines. And our first puller is Henry Piper from Mount Vernon, Illinois.
Here in the 5,500-pound super stock tractor category, the trick to get off the starting line with a minimum of tire spin. And as you can see, the 87-year-old has a great pull going.
He does, Brett. He's crossed the 250-foot mark and finally is forced to stop as the red flag goes down. They'll measure to see, and Henry comes in at 273 feet. Our next puller, Kiddie Sanders from Dayton, Iowa.
Look at the smoke. 4 turbochargers, 1,700 diesel horsepower for the Enforcer, but problems right off the line. It almost sounded, Ted, like the turbochargers were nowhere near full boost when he let out the clutch.
Well, he ends up at about 76 feet, and it's a shame, you know, this guy finished #1 in the nation in 1993.
Well, it's not going to happen here, but Anthony Hart now has the door wide open for him.
Anthony driving the first John Deere we've seen in this 5,500-pound super stock division.
The Hart's Desire machine using up a lot of this course. He's struggling to keep it in the center where he thinks traction is best. And that's all she wrote. 285 feet 7 inches, though, #1.
Let's take one more look with our Jasper Pull replay, and you'll see the wheels up from this 5,500-pound super stock tractor.
It was a beautiful launch, but watch as the machine starts drifting to the right. He'll land the front end to just a touch to steer it back over into the center, which is where he had the sled lined up. That's what made the difference.
This is Jim Osterholm from Portland, Indiana. That's not too far away, so he could be considered as a hometown favorite. He's driving an Alice Chalmers.
Again, nowhere near enough RPM to make those turbochargers produce the extra 700 horsepower they'll be giving that diesel engine. And at 17 feet, he's going to have to take it, Ted.
Well, a capacity crowd here at the fairgrounds on hand for this exciting truck and tractor pull. And our next puller will be Richard Garb from Osterholm, Wisconsin.
Now, this is an Alice Chalmers, a lighter weight tractor, but you can see it makes it that much more difficult to drive. Trying to keep the front end down to steer it away from the outer boundary mark. Garb trying to steer back into the track and gets it out to 268 feet. But that sure isn't going to take over the lead.
That won't get the job done. Maybe this man from Hillsboro, Kentucky will as he pulls into play. We'll look at Richard Garb one more time. Look how out of shape that tractor is as he's all over that 30-foot course, Brad.
Yeah, the driver of the Orange Crush, like I said, just constantly feathering the throttle to get the front wheels back on the ground so he can steer. You can't steer when the wheels are in the air.
This is Mike Savvy from Hillsboro, Kentucky.
Oh, and there's massive internal failure.
We'll get back to more pulling action in just a minute. Hi, everyone. I'm Ted Jones. Hope you're enjoying this Jasper Summer National event. Let's take a look at exactly what entails the American Tractor Pullers Association legal pulling course. First of all, it's 30 feet wide. They have a 30-foot width. Now, if the vehicle doing the pulling touches one of these disqualification side marker boundaries, they are disqualified and the pull is disallowed. Doesn't matter what the sled being towed does. However, in order to have a full pull, that is 300 feet, the sled has to cross this full pull 300-foot marker line. We'll be back with more after this.
Coming soon to a town near you, pulling to a town near you, pulling action as it was meant to be. The Jasper Engines and Transmissions Pulling Series. The nation's highest paid pullers are always on the road, giving the fans the best and most competitive pulling possible. If you like what you have seen, then look us up in the following cities: Knoxville, Tennessee, Madisonville, Kentucky, Manassas, Virginia, and St. Louis, Missouri. The Jasper Pulling Series. The best is coming to you. For ticket information, call 502-231-2094.
The Jasper Summer Nationals Truck and Tractor Pull from the Wabash County Fairgrounds. We'll have more 5,500-pound tractors in just a moment.
The very sight of this much corn brings to mind America's heartland. And here in northern Indiana, it also brings to mind a form of motorsports that actually predates the automobile. It's the sport of tractor pulling, whose origins, believe it or not, remain in the horses, the incredibly strong plow horses that were an integral part of the American farm in the last century. Back then, it wasn't unusual for farmers to challenge each other's horse teams in a battle of strength that involved pulling a specified amount of weight over a certain distance with a skid. But in the 1920s, when the horses gave way to a much stronger piece of farm equipment, the tractor, that battle continued, but on a mechanical level. Nowadays, the sport of tractor pulling is indeed one of the single largest forms of racing, especially in the rural heartland. And we're here in northern Indiana to bring you the absolute best in what is now one of the most technologically advanced sports you'll ever see in racing.
And, Brett, this is a testimonial to that. Here's a guy with a 4-cylinder tractor that has 3 turbochargers. John Hall from Wabash, Wisconsin.
The rare Minneapolis Moline, a tremendous amount of torque, and that's why the front end is staying up that long. He's got it right down the center. Of course, it's going to be right at the full pull line. Man, is this one going to be close to 300 feet.
Close, but not quite enough at 295 feet. Look at that, 8 inches. And this is a game of inches without question. Our next puller, Jim Acton from Lynn, Indiana.
The Case Internationals have an awful lot of RPM, but you got to be able to use it right off the line, and that's the problem that Acton's running into. I'll tell you, these are such amazing machines. Here's Bill Stevens with a little more information on the incredible tractors.
Well, even though the rules are the same for all of the 5,500-pound tractors that are competing here at Wabash, the appearance of the tractors really differ quite a bit. Here's the Case International that belongs to Jim Eckenrod of New Hampton, Iowa, and it looks pretty stock. Obviously, it's been modified quite a bit, but you don't have to use too much imagination to picture Jim behind the wheel pulling his plow through the cornfield. And then you have this machine over here that belongs to Rich and Missy Garb. Notice that triple stack air cleaner. This Alice Chalmers tractor has been modified highly, both outside and inside, but the paint job is what everybody comments on. Orange Crush, and why not? With this bright orange paint job, this tractor is easy to spot. Now let's take a closer look at some of the rules that the competitors in the 5,500-pound tractor class will adhere to.
Actually, the most amazing thing is that the 7,500-pound tractors, we'll see a little later in the show, and the 5,500-pound tractors are nearly identical. The biggest thing you'll notice the use of turbochargers. They're allowed 4 of them.
That's right. And I'll tell you, the stock appearance on these things is very important to the competitors.
This is Jim Eckenrod from Dayton, Iowa. 4 of those turbochargers, and they're estimating 1,700 horsepower, Brett.
He's got more speed down to the finish line than anybody has had so far. He's out of there. The first full pull. Listen to the crowd. That's what they wanted to see.
The crowd reacts to who probably will win this class, Jim Eckenrod, with a full pull. And we'll look at it one more time with our Jasper Pull replay. Oh, the wheel's way in the air.
That's just an indication of torque. That shows that he had everything hooked perfectly. The wheel spin was right for the weight of the sled, which right now is at 30,000 pounds. And he's not the only guy that can win this. If anybody else goes past that finish line, we'll take everybody who does into a pull-off round. Here's Bill with a look at the Moonshiner.
I'm down here in the pits for the Superstock tractors here at Wabash, Indiana, next to the 1960 International 460 tractor called Moonshiner that belongs to Rick Ross. Some guys run in the 5,500-pound class, other guys the 7,500-pound class. Well, last year, Rick couldn't make up his mind, so he ran in both. Rick, I know the name of your tractor was Moonshiner, but last year a better name might have been Double Trouble, right?
Yeah, it was a pretty good runner last year. I won the Superstock Points Championship in the 7,500 Superstock class and was runner-up in the 5,500 and won the Hoosier State Puller of the Year Superstock. So, pretty good year.
What do you have to do to the tractor to compete in both of those weight classes?
You basically just have to add weights to it. We add regular tractor weights to the frame, to weight brackets on the front and rear, and sometimes in the belly section of the tractor.
Some of the guys in your class run diesel engines, but you have an alcohol motor.
Yeah, I'd prefer alcohol. If you get them right, you can make a little more horsepower with them.
How'd you get into this?
Well, I started out pulling garden tractors when I was 12 years old, and we were running those on nitromethane, and I worked my way up through the mini-rod division with alcohol-fueled tractors and just took the natural course and kept right on going.
Well, you know, it's funny how life is. Rick mentioned that he began racing when he was 12 years old, and look at this. Today, he drives a tractor that has a rear tire. It's probably taller than he was when he started.
Almost taller than Bill is now, Ted.
You know, the amazing thing, this guy's only got 2 turbochargers, and he's got that 4-cylinder engine out to 301 inches.
But he's got alcohol fuel, which cools those turbochargers, and that's why he's able to make this kind of power. He's getting down there near the finish line.
But not quite across the finish line at 271-plus feet. So, Jim Eckenrod, the only man with a full pull thus far. Here's our next competitor, Randy Reitz from Princeton, Wisconsin, with a 3088 International tractor and 3 turbochargers.
I'll say this will be a wheel standard take, because the Internationals, look, I was just going to say, have that incredible wheel speed. And it may have a little too much. He doesn't have the front end up where he would like it to be. He's still going to be way down there, though, churning the dirt.
Very close. Oh, 296 feet and 11 inches, and the crowd approves of that. Less than 4 feet away from a full pull.
And you have to remember, the later we get in the first round of pulling, the more that track gets churned up. So finding a spot on the track where traction is going to be is more difficult, and that's what made that pull impressive.
Here's a guy that's a diesel. He calls it the smoker. Wonder why. Ken McPhillip from right here in Wabash, Indiana, the local hero.
Yeah, the speed of the exhaust is just incredible. I mean, there's so much work going on inside that little engine right now with the turbocharging. In fact, it was almost too much. He had a lot of wheel speed all the way down, Ted.
Well, he's ranked number 2 in the points, and he pulls 278 feet and brings his own fan club with him.
They're backing him all the way at this one. That was a great pull considering the track conditions. And, you know, Darren Smith coming up next is like any other puller. He can line that sled up anywhere in that 30-foot lane he wants to, wherever he thinks traction's best. Over to the side, in the center, it doesn't matter. That's where he's going to have to start looking.
This is the guy that could go another full pull right here because he's ranked number 1 right now in the points.
This is the top-running Ford tractor in the nation right now, the 5,500-pound class. He's on a good one. It's moving around. He drops the front end to steer it a couple of times. He's going down there, Ted.
He's not going to make it. The wheels spin. He stops his forward motion. He gets the red flag and 293 feet. The Jasper Summer Nationals is being brought to you by Jasper Engines and Transmissions, and by Valco of Cincinnati, and by Lucas Oil Products.
Jim Eckenrod is the winner in the 5,500-pound tractor class, and you really were the class of the field, the only driver with a full pull today.
We got lucky, I think, and we also had a good run. The tractor performed well for us, and we rode it out, but we're just thankful it turned out the way it did.
As the run goes, was it tricky? Was it easy? And when did you know you were going to go the distance?
It was a little tricky. I didn't drive it hard enough coming off the line, but I felt like about 280 it settled down, and I was going to take it out.
Will the victory today move you up in the points?
I think it's going to help. I think I was currently in 8th, and today's got to help quite a bit.